Even if it doesn't, I don't know. But I know the noodle is from China, right? Nobody says that. But the sauce, the marinara, you understand? But the idea that I understand what you're saying. When I think of tap dancing, maybe it's just who I am. I don't think of watch your headphones on the floor. When I think of tap dancing, I don't think of Shirley Temple. I think of Bojangles. And I think, I think of tap dancing as something that is American, like jazz. Whether you're making a different case, you're making an argument over people taking stuff and saying.
I think it's a relevant case for what we're talking about.
Okay.
Because we're saying that it's hard to identify African American. What is an African American? Or it's hard to identify what is African American culture. Well, the things that were started by African Americans or Africans who came over as slaves have been taken and turned into just mainstream things. So therefore, generations that have come after them
don't know where it's coming
from.
Don't
know where it's coming from. Don't know what we started. Don't know who we are.
And don't want to listen about it either. That's the way that was.
Well, maybe not listen, but at the same time, maybe not taught. Because the only way to erase it is to make sure that that story doesn't get told.
Right.
Like, you know, whether it be.
But who? And how many people in here? No, listen. I'm on this tap dancing thing, okay?
Okay.
You love Alice. Yeah. I'm not gonna say who again. How many people in here actually think that when you think of tap dancing, you think of mainstream culture, or do you think of? I mean,
I think of Fred Astaire.
You think of Fred Astaire?
That's nice. Yeah.
But they didn't tap dance. They like.
He tap dancer. Yeah, basically what he did. Or that movie, that horrible movie, Holiday Inn.
Like, I love that movie.
Well, no, but there's that scene where like they have the black tap dancers, but it's not like they're not black people. They're
in blackface.
Yeah. It's terrible.
But like that's part of my point.
Yeah, that's part of your point.
No, I mean I would definitely agree with you because like I never
like Gregory Hines and what's the other kid?
So you're saying that's why we can't? Oh, what other kid? Savion Glover.
Yes, Savion. You know they tap very differently. They call it hoofing because it's very hard. It's very it's very rhythmic. Tap dancing like Fred Astaire and it's very light on their feet and it's very Broadway Showtime type of stuff, which is very different than
what African Americans do.
Which is different than the tap dancing that we started. Bro, like we won't
It's socially acceptable, tap dancing.
Right.
And not only, I mean, people like when he was alive, it was Gregory Hines. He didn't like Savion Glover's tap dancing either. He's like the next generation of.
You sure about that? Because he was in the movie Tap.
Okay, when he was a little kid.
Right.
He was a baby.
That whole movie was about tapping and tapping hard because
Sammy Davis Jr. was in it.
Sammy Davis Jr. The twins. What are they called? What are they all? The Smothers Brothers or something like? No, not them.
The Smothers
Brothers.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They're like lovers. Did you know that?
No, they're twins. They're twins.
The Smothers Brothers?
No, I'm not talking. I'm talking about the dancers. Right. They used to do all the flips and the tricks and the splits. I can't think of their names, bro.
I don't know their names, but it's amazing. I mean, maybe it's just how I was brought up. You understand? I was brought up to be. I just knew about tap dancing.
What my point is in terms of the culture of African American, and maybe why there is such a problem identifying what an African American family is because the things that are associated with African American culture have been basically stripped from African American culture and made mainstream and then called American culture. So, we talked about the example of tap dancing. We asked, when you think of tap dancing, who do you think of? Well, the older kind of generation, we think of like Sammy Davis Jr., Gregory Hines, Bojangles. Other people may think of Fred Astaire or other things because the simple fact that you may not understand or know where tap started from. And that's basically my point. Like we may not understand, or generations of African Americans may not understand, because the story or the culture has been stripped and the story has been changed. And when it gets retaught, it gets taught without the beginning piece of it. So therefore, that identity is missing, and African American kids are growing up not necessarily knowing their culture. So therefore, they're just assimilating with whatever it is around them, whether it be mainstream white American culture or Hispanic culture or Caribbean culture, and basically losing their own. So I mean,
they didn't just come here by choice. They were taken here, they lost all of their culture and stuff. And as a result of that, they've just been trying to just survive here and make a life. And the culture that they did have, I'm not saying it's not important, but the main thing becomes I have to survive regardless. Like other cultures that come, like Irish Americans, Italian Americans, Indian Americans, they came here, they brought their culture here, they brought a lot of their family here. They started over, but they weren't building their life in the same way, so their cultures became more, I guess, a practice as opposed to just something that they had to survive.
I think she makes a really, 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 really good point that it's so true, because it's like, that, I guess that maybe makes the African American family so different from every other ethnic family, in the sense that the situation, the way they came here, is so different from every other ethnicity.
Right.
Very, very, that's really.
And the fact that the culture was intentionally stripped, so that, and not only that, but perhaps because it was so traumatic to leave, intentionally forgotten. I mean, we tend to block out trauma. So if something traumatic happens in your life, you tend to want to forget that. You don't want to talk about it. So the fact that, let's say, you were separated from your entire family when you were in, from your village, may have prevented you from actually telling your child that, because why would you want to remember that?
How does interracial dating affect the African American family?
When you're talking about mating, why do people pick? You say it's black people when they marry black people and have little black babies. But, perhaps if we weren't socialized racially, we would make our spouses, it wouldn't matter. People are like, I'm sure your parents would like you to marry a nice Indian woman.
Yeah.
That's a
But I think
generational thing.
Really? Oh, I want to be there when they hear that.
I think we're moving towards more interracial stuff.
Our generation.
People say that. But I think in reality, it's the same like Kelly Miller. He's very interesting. He was a moderate. You understand? So you always hear about Du Bois. You always hear about Booker T. And one end of both ends of the extreme. But then you had this guy Kelly Miller, and he was like right in the center. That's why I admire him, because I'm moderate. Sometimes you make sense, sometimes you make sense, and I just don't like. I feel that everybody has something to do. But one of the things that he said is that it's the natural inclination of people to have sex with different people. Not just, but we don't discriminate, really.
To be like sexually
not promiscuous.
No, they have different tastes.
Different tastes in people. I mean, that's why you have to have laws to prevent. You understand? To prevent mixing. Because if you don't have these laws preventing mixing, it's just going to naturally happen. So although people may look physically different, I'm not saying promiscuous, but the reason that we have these ideas that we can't, well, I have to marry an Indian woman, even though you're going to throw that off, and I want to be there for that. But the idea is that you're socialized into doing that. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, maybe black people are socialized, you have to marry another black person and make these black babies, and that will thus become a black family.
That's what I want to raise it. I know my parents freak out about it. Like, I've dated 3 white guys, and it's like when I tell them, they're like, what color is he? Your favorite. And they're like, you need to marry a black guy, because it never works out with white guys. It's like, yes, because they all have a meeting to not date, to like not make it work out, of course.
Yeah.
It's like that's completely illogical. It's like they're trying to say that, oh, the black man is going to be the best mate. They're all guys. It doesn't matter.
That's true. My mother's like, if I say, oh, I want to go out with John, she'll be like, oh, okay. But if I said like, Marcus, what street does he live on? What do his parents do? All this, you can kind of tell she's a little bit more.
Bourgeois.
She's definitely like on the bougie end. But I think my father's like very, very liberal and kind of just freelance, and he As long
yeah?
as they're good, as long as they're like a good guy.
Men aren't usually like that with their daughters.
Yeah, well, as long as they're a good guy, I don't think